السيدات والسادة، رحبوا معنا مجددا بالأستاذة هادلي جامبل، المذيعة في قناة CNBC وأعضاء جلستها النقاشية.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back anchor from CNBC, Hadley Gamble.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be talking about the landscape in Saudi Arabia for foreign direct investment. I'm joined by Klaus Kleinfeld. He's the CEO of NEOM, and I'm also joined by the governor of SAGIA, the Saudi Arabia General Investment Authority, Ibrahim Al Omar. Gentlemen, welcome. I want to kick off by asking you about what's happening in Saudi Arabia today, because at the moment you've got the second best performing stock market in the world. You also, of course, have the potential for FDI inflows of around 45 billion just in terms of those portfolio inflows over the next 2 years. But when we talk about Saudi Arabia specifically and what happens next in terms of the foreign direct investment scenario, I want to kick off with you, Ibrahim, because at the end of the day, your role as the governor of SAGIA has changed quite a bit. What is it exactly that you do today to help businesses who want to get involved in Saudi?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, was-salatu was-salam ala ashraf al-anbiya wal-mursaleen. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation and giving me the chance to talk about the vision and our role as SAGIA within the 2030 vision. The vision is based on three main pillars: a vibrant society, a thriving economy, and an ambitious nation. The three pillars are drawn from the kingdom's strength. As you know, the kingdom is the largest economy in the region. You have seen the Q1 report issued by the Ministry of Finance in Saudi. The growth of the non-oil revenue was about 62%, and this really gives us a good indication about our plan. We are on the right track. Also, Saudi Arabia sits at the heart of the Arab and Islamic countries. The geographical location of Saudi Arabia connects the three continents. In fact, 13% of the world's trade passes through the Red Sea, and this really gives a good, a good opportunity for the whole region. When it comes to FDI, going back to your question, we have seen a growth in Saudi Arabia for the foreign investment about 50%, comparing Q1 this year also to Q1 last year. Also in inflow, also we have seen about 40%. The FDI inflow is about 40%. The money invested in Saudi. Our role in SAGIA, I can describe in three stages. Prior to setting up your business, we will help you to build your business case, provide you with the business or the market information, site visit, which I refer to as a VIP concierge. We will work with you to even help you to position your product or service to all government entities, as we are working with all government entities as SAGIA in developing their opportunities. So we're very aware of their needs, creating the incentives required to make sure you have a very lucrative business case. Site search also will help you to find your location, and many other. During setting up your business also will help you in setting up your business, getting all the licenses required from the government entity, and help you to navigate through the professional ecosystem of Saudi. So it's a one-stop shop service. Post setting up your business, we provide two kinds of support. First, if there is any regulation that's slowing down your growth, we will work to change or replace that regulation after doing the root cause analysis. The second also service we provide is the matching concept. We know what you have, we know the needs of the private sector, since we are dealing as SAGIA not just with the foreign investor as before. Today also we are serving the local investors. So we know the needs from the private sector, from the government. We do the matching concept after knowing the needs. And the second part is the business environment. We have a target to be number 20 by 2020 on the ease of doing business. We are working with the World Bank and best practice across the world. We have identified more than 400 reforms. Today we have achieved about 40%, and I will give just few examples.
Before you go to those examples, I want to bring in Klaus here, okay? Because we know the investment case scenario for Saudi Arabia. I think that's one of the reasons why so many of us are coming to this Gateway Gulf Forum, really, because obviously Bahrain wants to be a conduit for investment into Saudi as well. Klaus, talk to me a little bit about the investment case in NEOM specifically. There's been a lot of buzz about this $500 billion megacity. Where are we today specifically?
Yes. Look, I mean, the investment case for NEOM is actually very easy to make because we got so many things going for us. In fact, we have been, since the announcement where you were involved with, we've had a huge amount of interest and are talking to a lot of companies that are on the forefront of multiple technologies, wanting to partner and wanting to try out things in NEOM. What speaks for NEOM? I mean, one thing is a beautiful location. It's just wonderful. I was just there last week. We invited the top livability experts from around the world to spend some time in NEOM with us to talk about future of livability. And I tell you what, it is as though you come to a place where the mind is at peace. At the same time, you know, we are creating a place where prosperity can be gained through creating a new future there. So on the technological side, a lot of people look at it and say, we can try certain things out. And we can try it out without being held back by existing infrastructure, plus being allowed new types of legislation. So we have full legislative authority, and we've been asked by His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, write this legislation in the most investor-friendly way and in the most future-oriented way. And this is what's currently happening. There's a big work stream underway with, I mean, 2 major international law firms working on that. And it's influenced also by the conversations that are happening in parallel with investor firms. I mean, one of the discussions we, for instance, had, almost every investor, and I think you probably have the same situation there, every investor says, look, Klaus, what is going to be, we love what we are hearing about NEOM, but what if things go wrong? You know, how is that going to work out? So we looked at and benchmarked what is the best legal structure in case something goes wrong, and we saw that that what has worked very well is a system of international judges, well-respected international judges, most of them retired, highly respected, being appointed by the king, and then sorting out who gets appointed by them, and all guided by an international arbitration system. You know, this is a huge additional attractiveness, because we know that in business most of the things go right, but sometimes things don't go right, and just to have this kind of additional insurance is a great thing, right? So this is basically, I could go on for, as you know, for hours. You know, so.
But this is a 30 to 50 year project, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And the 500 billion obviously is not what we're going to spend tomorrow. And a lot of that is also going to come through private investments. And frankly, when we saw each other last, I mean, in October last year, you know, so there is when we launched it, when we first time talked publicly about it. What I'm seeing today is that the interest in partnering is overwhelming. So my impression...
What is the city really going to look like? Because
what is that?
What is the city really going to look like? You're talking about that overwhelming interest.
Yes.
A lot of international corporations looking to get involved there. Is this going to look like more Chinese, more American, European? I mean, what is the makeup of NEOM actually going to be?
It's going to be very international, and very international for a whole host of reasons, which is also one of the blessings of the location. I mean, this location, if you look at it on the map, I mean, 70% of the people around the world can reach it in less than 8 hours flight time, you know? We now have 2 airstrips there. One is 3.5 kilometers long, the other one 2.75. On a 3.5 kilometer runway, you can land anything, you know, really anything. So this type of enabling infrastructure is coming into the ground and allows us. We have a deep sea port already there, which is now built out. You know, we have now fiber optics in the ground, basically covering all of the 500 kilometer of coastline. So some of these enabling technology is already there and allows us to play with things that you can't do anywhere else.
So you're in phase 1. So people can come to visit NEOM, they can check out what's already on the ground there. What's phase 2?
Well, this is not phase 1. This is for me phase 0. And what we are currently doing is we are finalizing the full strategic concept, and part of it is also to test some of the concepts with the real life investors. And all I'm saying is that this test goes extremely well, and has allowed us to get some additional things in there and into what we're planning for NEOM compared to what we originally thought. So think, for instance, mobility. Everybody thinks of mobility. So in mobility, one of the ideas is we will most likely make NEOM a place where only electric vehicles will drive. This is already doable today. We'll most likely not distinguish between private and public cars. And I don't know, do you own a car, by the way?
Well, as someone who just moved to the Gulf, I'm going to have to get one.
See, this is a generational divide. The earlier generation defined freedom by owning a car. You basically define it differently, and I think the Neomians will also see it differently. For them, a car is one way of transportation, and you have it at your fingertips, and basically you push the button, and then the vehicle that you want shows up. So those are the concepts. Then we think about the third dimension, basically saying how quickly can you bring passenger drones in? But also don't forget, the logical means of transportation is walking. So how do you make the cities, the villages, how do you make them walkable? How do you make them easy to use with a bicycle? Scooters, the big hit now in the US is scooters, electric scooters, These are the concepts that we're working with, and there are gazillions of players that are willing to help and willing to invest in that.
Let's take a step back just from NEOM specifically and look at Saudi Arabia more globally. We all know the numbers about the population growth, so many people under the age of 30. Talk me through the opportunities in terms of sector specifics.
And we have like 10 priority sectors. As you know, the education, the healthcare, the transportation. I'll give you, and also the privatization is really creating a lot of opportunities. Just to put things into perspective, if we look at the education, Saudi Arabia is the 8th highest spender globally on education, with a budget of about $51 billion, and that really gives a huge opportunities. And now, recently, we allowed the foreign investor to come with 100% ownership on the education sector. If you look at the privatization program, from now until 2023, we will have more than 100 opportunities with a value of about $67 billion. Health sector, more than $80 billion opportunities because of the also privatization. So it's a lot of opportunities, and we do have also new sectors, untapped sector. For example, the tourism sector. The General Entertainment Authority, they have a plan this year to have more than 5,500 live events compared to 2,000 plus last year, with more than 15 million visitors compared to 8 million last year. And they overachieved, by the way, their target in Q1. And for every dollar they invested, they earned double. That's just to give some example.
And in terms of the privatization, we've seen so much excitement surrounding privatization in Saudi Arabia. The plans were scaled back a little bit, but you still have a lot of infrastructure development.
Yes, in terms of privatization, all what I told you is in phases. Privatization, some of it will be this year, some of it will come in 2 years, some of it in 5 years. It's like from now until 2023. But what we have ready, for example, today is the energy sector. We do have a plan to have 9.5 gigawatt from now until 2023. We already awarded a few contracts. We are already going ahead with few contracts all this year. Just to also put things into perspective, every 1 megawatt requires about $1 million investments. The petrochemical sector, we are already advanced. We have many opportunities in that sector to create more specialized chemical, not just the standard one. And we are going to launch something, we call it Invest Atlas. All opportunities for all sectors will be online. It's online portal where everybody, all investor can access.
Of course, there is one thing that does tend to see some clouds on the horizon, at least for Western investors and specifically. Of course, that's the geopolitical situation, the geopolitical headwinds coming off the back of what we've seen over the last several days with Iran and the nuclear deal. Klaus, when you speak to folks who want to get involved in Saudi Arabia, what's the message there?
Actually, this is not a debate that investors are having. I mean, at least on the NEOM side, I mean, we get flooded with investor requests and meetings. I don't even remember one single conversation of that nature. I think the conversations that we have in NEOM are typically centered around, well, what I cannot do anywhere else, I can do in NEOM. We just talked about mobility. You can talk about telecom, you know, or connectivity there. I mean, NEOM has, again, blessed by 3 of the world's biggest trunks of telecom cables, connect Asia and Europe, go through the Suez Canal. We are tapping into them already today. Fiber is in the ground, basically connecting the area, the 500-kilometer coastline. We can now connect into this. There's a revolution coming in interconnectivity, digital interconnectivity through 5G. Right? Everybody's talking about it, but other than in China, really, it's not moving. It's not moving to a physical location. NEOM is the logical physical location where people can try things out, because suddenly communication will not just be amongst humans, it will also be connecting a lot of things, right? And to make NEOM a place where this can be tried out, that's the discussion. So people are coming to us and saying, you know, I want to be first in 5G with those applications, you know? There's multiple layers. I mean, I basically have some devices. I want to be first trying out the devices. I want to first be with a new application. I want to connect my machinery to it. Can I try this out? Where is an area where I can try it out? And we can deliver those type of things, you know? So pretty much in every single field where technology is currently changing the world, and it's so broad that it's changing almost everywhere, NEOM can play a role in advancing this, not just the science, but advancing the application by trying it out, you know, and the people in NEOM will be very open to trying these things out.
What do you say to those folks who are critical of this scenario, and they say, you know, we've seen them try to do this before with King Abdullah Economic City. We saw them make a Hollywood movie about it, and they want to know what's going to be different this time around.
And that's one of the things, by the way, that is giving us a lot of headaches, to be honest, from the start on, because we did an analysis. I'm almost going 200, 300 years back, and looked at which city developments have really been successful and which have not been successful, and on a bunch of criteria. And it was very clear that a lot have not been really successful or have deviated substantially from the concept that was originally proclamated. So, and there are different reasons. So we've analyzed that, and I would say the success rate is not higher than 30%. And almost like in mergers and acquisitions, you know, same thing, you know. So that's why we're putting a lot of emphasis on understanding what has worked and how do we do this right. Right, so that's the reason, for instance, why we invited the top livability experts around the world into NEOM and hearing their views and are engaging with them. So one of the things that we have learned is an early engagement with those experts, an early engagement with investors is extremely crucial, extremely crucial. And also don't forget, I mean, NEOM, something like NEOM has never been done before in reality, you know, because many people, you just refer to it as a city. It's 26,500 square kilometers. This is not a city. This is a land. It's almost the size of Belgium, right? So in my view, NEOM will have a lot of, I don't even want to call it cities, I would call it villages, you know, because we want this place to be livable. We want people to gravitate towards this and experience a new type of lifestyle. I call it the post-industrial lifestyle. you know, and we don't know exactly how this is going to look like, but one thing we know for sure, we have to create it in such a way that it is taking away a lot of restrictions that humans have today. So ideally automating a lot of tasks that mundane tasks that you really don't want to do, allowing new ways of digital connectivity, you know, so that you can multiply your presence across the globe. So those are concepts and ideas, and at the same time making it a community. A sense of community is very, very important. That's a clear message that comes from all of the livability experts, and that's one of the things that is going to be in the focus. How do we create a place where people in the end say, this is home to me, I feel at home here, I feel I'm part of the community, I'm part of something greater here. And the something greater, by the way, the nature plays a major role in this. Don't forget, I mean, it has a wonderful waterfront, massive coral reefs, probably the only really fully alive corals that exist around this world, you know, so this will play a major role also in defining NEOM. NEOM will look at nature as something that we want to continue to be beautiful. We have beautiful mountains, go up to 2,500 meters, and desert. I mean, desert is a beautiful thing in my view also.
I want to open up the floor for questions as well, because I know we have a lot of questions for these gentlemen. Sir? We can get it to a microphone.
Thank you. My name is Gerard Alfil, German weekly Euro am Sonntag. Dr. Kleinfeld, most of the German blue chip companies are already in the GCC, here in Bahrain, Dubai, and elsewhere. Why should they look at NEOM too?
I think I mentioned a lot of these things that we can offer that are difficult to replicate, not just in the region, but in principle. One thing is when you have disruptive technologies, very often if you are forced to build them and connect to existing infrastructures, it holds you back and it doesn't allow you to go, I mean, to the full extent of what you would do if you're not held back by existing technologies. This is one of the things, you know. So the other thing is to combine this future orientation with a wonderful place to live at, which I think is pretty unique. And then obviously, I mean, the backing from the kingdom, not just financially, but also the political will to make this happen, are unique things, you know. So the connectivity that we talked about, physical connectivity, tell me what other places you have where 70% of the people can reach it in less than 8 hours, plus it's a future orientation, plus the digital connectivity that we talked about. I mean, the capability for us to design our own regulatory system. As you can see, I can go on and on and on. So I think that there are a whole host of reasons why people are looking at NEOM as a good partner.
Another question here in the front.
Hi, good morning. My name is Anil Kumar from London. I have a question for His Excellency. You know, I heard all about what he said on Saudi, but you're making the right noises. But what happens? Do you have an ombudsman or a watchdog? If things don't happen the way you want them, what do you do then? Thank you.
It wasn't exactly clear. Could you ask one more time? Sorry.
Sorry, what I said is I heard all about Saudi opening up with the new reforms, the fundamental reforms, the structural reforms. It's fantastic to hear that. It's good sort of records. But do you have a watchdog or ombudsman who will make sure that the government carries on or the department carries on these reforms and not only on the paper, but they really happen?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a very important question. We have seen many countries who has a plan on the paper and they say it's done and they got the confirmation from the government entities, but on the ground is not yet done. So what do we do? Three things we do. We have a committee called Taysir, and we're meeting in a weekly basis to follow up all the 400 reforms I mentioned. We do have the private sector sitting with us, so we don't close any reform without the confirmation from the private sector confirming it's done and it's closed, and we are happy. Second, we have a third party, the mystery shopper, to go outside and making sure also this has been done and completed. So we don't really close it before we have two confirmation. And again, we re-evaluate again after 1 year. It's not, even if it's closed, we reopen it again after 1 year to see is there any improvement area or not. And that weekly meeting, by the way, 37 government entities are sitting in one room. The World Bank have acknowledged our efforts there, and now they are doing a case study. They will announce it hopefully this year for the rest of the world to see, to show them what Saudi have done and how did they manage as a government to implement all this number of reforms in a very short period.
Question straight in the back as well. And Klaus, I have to ask you, if I go to NEOM today, can I stay somewhere? Can I take a tour? I mean, literally, what's on the ground?
Yes, you can do that. I mean, you can, if you were to do this tomorrow or this afternoon, the way to get there is you either go by car, you know, or you take the plane to Tabuk and then take the car, you know, and you have a 1.5 hour drive, and then you're on the beautiful coast of NEOM, and you can take a swim, you can enjoy nature. There are a couple of hotels there. There's currently a large building activity going on, and because His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, in a good American fashion, is putting his money where his mouth is, and so he's building for his father and him summer residence there, and there are also a couple of hotels that are built at the same time, and much of this actually will be ready most likely in the late summer this year. But there are a few hotels that you can stay in.
Mohammed Al-Qad from Bahrain. Of course, the way that you are going to build NEOM never been built before. It's transformational. And from what I hear from you, that still you don't know exactly how it will look like. So are you going to implement solutions or designs that's proved to work? Or you are open for experiments and trial and error? That's one question. The second thing, are you open for new ideas, entrepreneurs, or innovations to go in the project? And what's the process for submissions of that? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's a very, very good question. Yes, we will need to have an attitude of trying things out as long as we make sure that this is safe. Right, so you have to put some boundaries, you know, but technology is never a straight line, and I've been around when, for instance, the GSM standard was introduced, which has become, was originally introduced as a European standard, has become a world standard. It took 3 to 5 years until this was sorted out. So 5G, obviously, as an example, is much more complicated, but has also many, many more advantages. So making NEOM one of the first places where we try out and have a community living with 5G, I think will be very exciting. But it will also have some frustrating moments where it will not work. But that's the way it will go, and obviously we won't mandate it. I mean, if you say, I don't want to be part of this and I want to live in a 4G world, so be it. It's there already today, you know. On your point of entrepreneurs, yes, absolutely. We need to have a very, very strong entrepreneurial spirit, you know. And we're not just talking about large firms. We're also talking about kind of startups, you know. So in this space, I mean, almost every of the spaces is so big that it allows for startup firms, you know, and so it's very clear that we need to have a kind of accelerators or a home for these startup firms, you know, physical places. And I think it will attract people with a free spirit, with an entrepreneurial mind very easily. The idea is also that NEOM will have 2 types of funds. One is a development fund, which is more for the infrastructure development, as well as attracting the big guns, so to say, and then an investment fund. And the investment fund is more for partnering with firms as well as investing in startups and bringing them over there. The leverage, we can leverage two things, by the way, on this. One is new technologies, new areas, but we can also leverage the proximity to the base economy in Saudi Arabia, right? Because there are a lot of startup firms who would say, well, I mean, if I can have a partnership with a Saudi firm or try things out and at the same time live in a beautiful environment like NEOM, you know, that's an ideal thing. Why put myself in a car for 3 hours a day and go from San Francisco into the valley? You know, if I can be at NEOM and on top of it have great clients to work with and can try these things out, you know. So yes, absolutely, we have to do it. And we also have to build on the backbone of this research facilities, higher education facilities, right? Because the analysis to your earlier question, you know, some things have failed. Some of those that have failed missed out on building up basically R&D, higher education institutions. And it's very clear that particularly if you look at innovation hubs, that they need higher education institutions. By the way, this is something that takes some time. In the starting phase, we actually, on the education front, we need K to 12. Because, I mean, everybody here in the room, if you would consider coming to NEOM, I think the first question that you would ask is, where do I send my kids to school, right? And do I have a great school that they can go to? And if I stay there for a few years, you know, do they have a chance to get into the best universities? You know, and the second question that you will ask most likely is, what about healthcare? You know, how's the healthcare system? So those are things that we have to put in place right away, you know, and then we build on the education and the higher education side.
I just want to make sure that we have time for one more question from the audience. Haven't heard from this side of the room, but I think we'll go right here to this gentleman.
Hi, Tariq Turkestani from KAUST, Saudi Arabia. My question is, I mean, you mentioned K1 to 12, but I wonder how is higher education is going to look like at NEOM. Do you plan to build universities, and what kind of researchers?
Could you hold the microphone a little closer?
Okay, so do you plan to have KAUST-like universities or MIT-like or Princeton-like, and what's the plan for that? Yeah?
Yes, we need to have a higher education, less so for the education side first, more so for the kind of R&D side of things, you know, because out of academia a lot of good ideas come, and you need to bring people in there that get infused with those ideas. I mean, they are one of the areas where the seeds come out for additional startups, additional business ideas, you know. So that's what you need it for. And the idea is, number one, to partner with firms. And partner with higher education institutions, those ones that are top. And I believe that the size of NEOM allows for multiple partnerships. I don't see this as being one, you know, I see this as a connection with multiple ones, right? Also probably being a little bit structured by who leads in what area. You know, we had a discussion earlier this morning, somebody was asking me, Klaus, what's your thought on artificial intelligence? And I said, well, we did an analysis on this, and basically artificial intelligence goes into pretty much every technological field, and this is not one answer to it, right? You find artificial intelligence applications in energy, and energy is when you talk about smart grids or the optimization of data centers, there are very, very good artificial intelligence applications around that. At the same time, you know, you find it in education, right? Or in healthcare. I mean, one of the things that we are looking at is to give every NEOMium an application on their phone which I call Dr. NEOM, where they have Dr. NEOM on their phone, and if they feel something is odd, you know, they can call Dr. Niam, and Dr. Niam is based on an AI first, and then has a backbone, if the AI is not sufficient, has a backbone with a call center or a couple of doctors that can sit anywhere on this planet, right? So those are applications. So and applications which are strongly driven by multiple higher education institutions.
Unfortunately, they only give us half an hour, so I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap it up. I just want to thank you both for joining us in terms of the governor of Sagia. We're looking forward to hearing more from you in the future about what you're doing to drag investment into Saudi Arabia, and of course the CEO of NEOM, Klaus Kleinfeld. Very exciting to hear a little bit more detail. So thank you so much, gentlemen.